Hey guys, it's Al from Altruistic Channel, and I'm just touching base, letting you know that I've actively been working on the YouTube channel for Altruistic Channel LLC and the Altruistic Media. So essentially, the original concept for Altruistic Channel was that I was going to go ahead and put basically that things on that were kind of inspirational or things that were driven towards engaging leaders of tomorrow with through analytics of today and engaging them in the world at large and maybe exposing them to some things they may not have known or new ideas that may launch their way of thinking into something else. And essentially what happened is I got bogged down in the trying to get numbers and the marketing part of it and trying to, I'm an INTJ personality, so I went down the rabbit hole with like trying to make sure that it was successful, and I kind of lost sight of what it was actually doing, which was it was going to resonate with people and leaders around the world who want to engage the uncomfortable conversations or things that may not necessarily make sense at the time, but they want to expose themselves to all the possibilities because they understand that there's no limits to our world. And so I took a step back and I wanted to kind of relaunch it with my perspective back. Just because I have 20 years of training manager and client services and hospitality manager and all that stuff, doesn't mean that I don't make mistakes. In fact, that's what makes me a natural leader, is the fact that I own my mistakes as much as possible, and I do learn from them. And so I gravitate towards things that are challenging. And as an INTJ personality, I observe not only myself, but other people around me. And I look for things that resonate with me and see if that might resonate with you. And so I realized that maybe it was about time that I kind of talked a little bit about my personal beliefs and kind of the way that my brain processes information. So this kind of all began about 2 years ago with the receipt of two paintings that I did not ask for. A friend of mine painted these beautiful paintings. One was very light, one was very dark. And I was very fascinated by the one, the light one, the one that was more color, had more colors and so forth. And I couldn't stop staring at it. And so slowly things began to happen. It's kind of an interesting phenomenon. When you start to notice that something has changed and you don't necessarily know what it is, but your perception begins to grasp that things are just changing. And one thing led to another. I can't remember specifically what it was at the moment, but trust me, as the channel grows now, you're going to get more detail about the ascension process. But essentially what it was is that I had something really bad happen. I believe it was with the day that my one of my best friends died. He killed him, well, not killed himself, but he had an overdose. And this guy could do drugs like up the wazoo. Like, I still struggle with the fact whether or not it was an overdose or something happened. But it's stated as an overdose, so we'll leave it at that. But I was very, very sad, and I was staring at the painting that my friend had drawn. And in the top corner, I finally realized that something had caught my eye, and that's what I've been staring at, just so I didn't know consciously. And what it was is that sixth grade, I was in algebra. No, I guess it was fifth grade. I don't know when you start algebra, but I was bored out of my mind. I hate algebra. I've never been good at algebra. Anybody who tells me what to do, I just ignore them anyway, so you can imagine what I do with math. Now, in calculus, now that's my thing. I'm a calculus boy. But anyway, algebra. So I was sitting there and I'm bored out of my mind. And somehow or another, I ended up hearing something that made me laugh, which was you cannot square root a circle. And I understood the concept of what they were trying to say, but I wrote it in like a hieroglyphic type of thing on my book. And specifically, only I would ever know these symbols, right? And lo and behold, it's that fucking symbol at the top of that goddamn painting. And I just, for a moment, I paused and I was like, well, how the hell would he know about this? Because nobody knew other than my sister, and my sister sure as hell would never share with anybody because she doesn't understand the concept. So one thing led to another, and I started to question the fact of like dimensional jumping, and somehow I ended up on the time frame. And was it possible that I had sent that message to myself? Ridiculous, I know. But it led me into like investigating online. And back at 2 years ago, it wasn't really that well known. But I came across something interesting. It was called the Collective. And so the Collective movement is basically like what I thought at the time to be a hippy-dippy bullshit type of thing. Where all these hippie people were going around going, oh, the world's going to change and blah, 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 blah. But it reminded me of the Aztecs and, what they said about 2012, which was not that we were going to die or the world was going to end, but actually they said that we would change the way that we operate and the way we perceive the world around us. And it got my attention. And I started to look more into the collective consciousness. And essentially the concept is simple. We are supposedly moving towards a state where we still exist as individuals and very much all about us. But that we're part of a team, a global team. And we are going to start working on, projects that have to do with the betterment of all humanity, not just man or not just, women. And it had started. And the first wave had gone through something called ascension. And they were ascending. And there were ascension masters. And so I was like, oh, this is just great. More hippy-dippy shit. I kind of ignored it for a minute. And then the pattern started. So the thing about me specifically is that one of my talents, I'm a gifted person. And I've been gifted since, I guess, I tested it in 5th grade. And I decided not to go into the DT program because of a conversation that I had with my mother, which was very honest. And I'll tell you about that later, but it was very insightful. And so I decided not to go into DT, but needless to say, I'm tested in, and I believe I'm still on that list somewhere. And so I remember testing into it, and so I have these gifts, and one of my gifts is that I have the ability to recognize patterns a lot faster than other people. And in fact, I can walk into a space, and I can tell either by energy or by like a vibration whether something has changed. And so it's always just something that I've always had, and I just never really thought about it. But when I get mad, I send electricity out in the sense that I shock everything electronic around me. And I don't know, the Hawaiians believe that there's some sort of energy field that we create. And so I interfere with other energy. And specifically, I stop time. Not like literally like charmed stop time, like I don't freeze things. But I freeze time when I get very angry or I get very confused about something and it makes me angry. I stop time in the sense that if it's a wall clock or anything on my arm, or like a watch, it'll break for no reason. And I've been able to do it since I was a kid, so I never really thought anything about it. But as I started to kind of go into this rabbit hole, if you will, of this belief behind the collective, I started to find a couple things that were very true. Like I started to notice that things were just not the same that they used to be. It was almost like I woke up. And in the process of the awakening of the collective conscious, you awaken within the matrix to realize that things are not the same that you thought they were. In fact, you have been misled or, to some degree, bamboozled. And it's not so much that you were bamboozled that bothers you, it's the fact that you are now awake and you don't know where you've been necessarily. You just kind of look around and you're like, what the fuck is this shit? And you kind of get thrown. And everything that you believe in kind of starts to fall apart from then on out. And so what I didn't realize is that by engaging the theory behind this, I had started to play with it in reality. And I didn't realize that I have the ability to manifest things. And so it came crashing down on me one day. I remember it was something having to do with dark matter. And at the time, they weren't able to figure out what quantified dark matter and what it consisted of and how to deal with it and so forth. And I was like, well, I fucking know what it is. It's just, instead of looking at it like energy, look at it as like a water. Look at it as a substance and find the vibration and blah, blah, blah. I need a nuclear physicist, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that was like 6 in the morning. I say about 11 o'clock in the morning, I'd opened my bar that same day. And lo and behold, there's a guy who comes into my bar and sits right in front of me. And he is just staring at me, and he won't leave me alone kind of in the way that he just like is trying to engage me and like almost desperate. Like almost kind of like somebody who's trying to ask you out. And I was like, oh, dear God. And so the next thing I know, I go, well, I start talking to him, and he turned out to be a nice gentleman and stuff. And I brought him his food and all that stuff because, we just do food as well. And all of a sudden, I finally went, okay, let me ask, what do you do? And he goes, oh, I'm a nuclear physicist. And you come into my fucking bar. What are the fucking odds? And that's when the odds started happening. And so that's when the numbers started to change. And so there were patterns that started to emerge that I just thought was hysterical. So the 111 thing started really, really quickly. But the patterns that are the most impressed upon me are the 911, the 911, obviously. Because of the symbolism behind it and how ingrained it is into my head. And I start to wonder why beyond the events of 9/11 was that even true before then. Because I remember the clock being 9/11, looking at it all the time at 9/11 before 9/11. But specifically, it was like almost like something that was like trying to get our attention, right? And it did in a big way, an unforgivable way, but nonetheless, it was a big way. And I started to notice that specifically my number was 666, which I thought, oh great, I'm the fucking devil. And 999. And so I just remember ever since I was very young, it reminded me of something that I thought since I was like 4, and I said it to my mother, and she never understood what it meant, which was, I'm the youngest of 9. No fucking idea. I'm the only child. I have no idea what that means. I still to this, even though I've ascended, I don't know. But it made me start to question everything in reality. But when I was doing it, because I was manifesting and I was aware that I was manifesting, I was actively creating things that I was inquisitive about or curious about, I started to take it for granted, and I started to play with it a little bit too much, and I took it almost with no regard for respect for it. I don't know what it is. And so I started to think, okay, I'm going crazy. And then I realized I'm not going crazy. There's nothing. I'm not going to be institutionalized for something that's not doing anything to anybody. I'm not saying that you or anybody else has to believe in anything. I'm just telling you my story. And that's when I started to, I guess I entered into the ascension. Here's the thing. I will never say anything to anybody which will be, to some degree, oh, you have to believe what I'm telling you. And I will never tell you what to believe because I don't know anything. I just know what I know, and I can only speak from my perception. And perception is based on stimuli, on the receptors that you take in your stimuli, and what you then interpret, and then that's what you put out into the world as your perception. So it's very unique, and it's very specific to every one person. And since there's no two people on the planet that have the same brain or operate the same way as a result, you can never really put it into context for everybody that everybody will understand. But like psychics or anybody else would tell you, never take in information that you don't believe to be true. So if something doesn't resonate, move on. If it does resonate, stick and see what happens, okay? But never take on somebody else's bullshit until you know that it's your bullshit as well. So I started the ascension process. And what I didn't realize is that the ascension process is different for everybody. I'm just going to put the disclaimer out there, but it was fucking brutal. It is the worst thing that has ever happened to me in the world. And as I've gone through it, and I finally got to that point where I understand its purpose, I'm very clear on all of it, you will never hear me say that it is absolutely worth it. It's not. It is absolutely brutal. It destroys everything in your life, and it takes you to the core, but it's meant to. Now, is it worth it? I mean, is it beyond just that statement? Is it something that I would recommend? No, but is it worth it? Yes. But you have to get through it. And that's the problem that we have, people who have ascended or are in the ascension process, is how to convey to someone, you're going to be destroyed. And everything you believe in will go to shit. Everyone you've ever believed in will destroy you and disappear on you, or they will die. And you will be left 100% isolated on your own. But you're going to get through it, and you won't be thankful for the experience. You will appreciate why it had to happen that way, and you will understand the exact process of why your life has led to you. In my case, if you were molested and raped, you will understand why that had to happen at the time it happened in order for you to get to where you are. I'm not saying that you'll ever agree to it, because that's ludicrous. Just like the belief that if you have ascended, you have to somehow be a nice person all the time. No, that would be counterintuitive to survival. You're still the asshole that you were before. You just take ownership and you forgive yourself for your shortcomings and realize that now you have to think a little bit more globally. And you have to take responsibility for everything you create, which is everything that you encounter. So you can no longer look at the world and go, oh, woe is me, when you realize that you had everything to do with all the things that led to that point. And when you are a victim of a violent crime, I will never tell you that was meant to be, because that's someone else choosing to do something to you. That's two different, you know what I mean? There's so many things that would have to happen in order for that to happen in the lineage of life. So I'm getting off on a tangent. But the point is this. How do you convey that to the leaders of tomorrow? Because this is affecting people around the world. It's not like we can say, oh, this is just my perception. No, well, even if it was, my perception is still based on everybody else's perception. Something's off. Something has changed. In the past 2 years, everyone's life has gone to shit. People who used to love each other really can't stand each other anymore, and they're just staying together for the children. But they don't want to leave because they don't understand the reality shift. And not everybody's having a bad time with it. Some people are still asleep. In fact, the majority of people are asleep. It's the rest of us who have been awakened, and we don't know why we were selected to awaken now. And in the process of the collective consciousness, as we all move towards one, and you become one with the planet, and you become one with the stuff, you learn some things that are not very comfortable. You learn things that you don't want to know. Like, I understand now why there's child molesters. I don't want to fucking know that. I'm still going to tell you the truth. I still think they should be put to death. Just because a dog has rabies and is going around, he's still going around biting people and giving them rabies. You still put the fucker down. You don't leave him on the planet. Having said that, you also take responsibility for the fact that the dog had rabies because something XYZ happened, or it's trying to dwindle down the population, what have you. So you learn a lot, and whether you like it or not, you begin to kind of progress into this sphere of just knowing. And when you know and you understand something for what it is, it kind of broadens your life into a way where you can start to literally encompass everything that you can possibly imagine. And weird things start to happen, like randomly psychics, for me, personally, started to come at me. And they're like, okay, you have to choose this path. If you don't choose this path, all hell's going to break loose. And if I didn't choose the path, of course, all hell would break loose. And I was like, no one's going to tell me what to do. But it brought me back to the original concept. What if, in the future, we are actively engaging, some of us that are trained enough or that understand it or have ascended mastery, are communicating with us. What if is it possible that we have affected the time continuum, but we cannot directly interfere with each other? Only thing we can do is kind of send signals. And the reason I started to really believe in that, and this is why you're all probably tuning off at this point, is because of that deja vu thing. So the concept of deja vu always kind of bothered me. It was kind of like the chicken or the egg thing, why people were confused by either one of them. It stands to reason that if you are having deja vu, meaning what we believe to be, well, what y'all believe to be, where your life is going in a certain direction and you repeat the same process and you're aware that you've done it before, well, but that would be redundant because you would be living the exact same process. So then how would that be any difference? And so why would that make you react? I think that in actuality what's happening is that you chose a different path. Because I do believe that life is cyclical. And the reason I believe that is because we're stuck in a rut. And that's the second part of this. You know, it shouldn't be shocking to you that even our movies are so boring that we're recycling fucking Charlie's Angels from back in the 70s. Because we're stuck. We're stuck in this cycle. And we're trying to figure out how to get out of this cycle. And so it made me wonder if that's what part of the time continuum was. But the point is this. Going to the deja vu. If we're experiencing the same thing, then it wouldn't do anything to us in this dimension, if you will, right? Because you are actively engaged in a linear project. You are doing the same thing over and over again, and you're stuck, and you're just doing it to whatever. But for you to get those little tingly things, and for your body to react the way it does, and your body go, whoa, you had chosen a new path. You have altered something that has always been. And so it made me start to think back on the chicken or the egg. So this is not for everybody. This is my personal belief. But since I'm introducing the channel and what we're going to be engaging in and some of the stuff, I got to be honest. It's never been complicated to me. I remember working this out when I was a very young person. If something in the chicken or the egg, the question is, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, here's the thing. Reason, in my perception only so far, is this. If it's called a chicken, then the egg came first. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fucking called a chicken. It would be called a duck, or a moose, or a cow. Whatever the fuck it would be. Something had to beget something in order for it to be titled, is my theory. Kind of like the Big Bang Theory. What if the Big Bang is just nothing more than someone literally going, oh, I got it, and an idea is born. God's idea. And from that snap, boom, everything goes in. Because it took eons of evolution for us to get here. But then that kind of makes an even bigger, wider question for the world. That would eliminate the possibility of us being a mistake. We're not an anomaly. We're on purpose. Which should then make you, the listener, who's listening to this, if you made it this far, very fascinated with who you are. Because that would mean, to some degree, that the entire cosmos, everything made of dark matter, has put all of their energy and all of their resources into creating physicalities and a physical being, energy, in physical bodies to test theories. Energy has lived for eons and eons and eons. We don't know the nature of why energy is there, but we know that it's there for a reason. We don't know how it came to be or who's in control, but we know that that just is. It's ingrained in our DNA. So that would then imply that everyone on this planet is here on purpose. There are no mistakes. So no matter how bad life gets, or no matter how bad your ascension process is, because it is fucking brutal, you are here because everything in the cosmos needs you to be here. So why are we wasting our time? Why are we sitting around talking about abortion? It's a woman's right to choose. And here's how you know. Because if you're a guy, you would never let anybody tell you what to do with your body. It's not a conversation piece. It is what it is. It is her right to choose her path. Because it's our right to live our life. It's very simple. You know, it's not our business to tell people how to live their lives, because no one can tell you how to live your life. If you did, you'd be honest that you're a pothead, or that you fucking do crystal meth every day, or you're fucking everybody in the fucking planet and you're not being faithful. Like, your secrets are going to come out at some point. We all know this. It's not like you can hide things forever, and we all slip up. Psychologically speaking, we're going to do it so that we get caught. That's the principle behind psychology, is why we do certain behavior. But we're so busy looking up to the heavens, or we're so busy looking to, I don't know, whatever it is, that we're not neglecting to look inside of ourselves, because everyone is so different, that everyone has an answer, in my personal belief, that no one else has. Everyone on this planet has had to experience the pattern and the thing that has made them who they are for a reason. And instead of questioning what the reason is, like, am I a program? Is it possible that we live in a matrix that literally is just us simulated to be life? And what is the, okay, and what's the worst part of that? Nothing. Okay, so we're not real. Well, I'm pretty fucking real. You are too. But the idea that we aren't real, why does that bother you? It doesn't validate you or invalidate your existence. It just is. Kind of like why we're here. I don't fucking care why we're here. And the more I ascend, the less I care. I'm actually more interested in what do we do collectively to make this better and to make this an experience that is worthy of the fact that everything in the cosmos has created us and taken all of their energy and pulled it together so that we can exist to answer things and to answer questions. What if we are the graduate class of energy? What if we are so advanced as species that we have lived every life cycle so many times? We were the Mayans. We were the Romans. Because we passed that, we didn't pass on shit. It's part of who we are. It's part of our memory. But we don't get to be in the game knowing that. That's defeat the purpose of the game. But why would you ever accept a game like this? That is possible where you die over and over and over again, painfully by you, and all of the bad things that happen. There has to be something so rewarding in the knowledge and in the quest that cosmically speaking, we're doing something grand. So the next time that someone says to you, I'm so depressed, tell them the truth. Be like, knock it off. You know, I know that's easier said than done, but come on, I get why you're depressed, but what are we going to do about it? We have to start working together as a team anyway, because it's not working individually. We got things going on that are literally to just distract us, like the monkey in the White House. No power whatsoever, but every single person I know is always upset that the fucker's tweeting. Let him tweet. Tweet, stupid. Like, just because he's not working. If you're tweeting and fucking on your phone, you're not doing what you might otherwise be doing, which is fucking up our world. He's not doing anything. Let him. And has it affected your life? No, because that he's not in... You know, I'm not going to say that the President of the United States is not in power, because normally I'm pretty sure he is. But in this case, he's not doing anything. Thankfully. Let it be. You know, we have the opportunity in this next election to get rid of him. If you want to get rid of him, that's great. If you want to be an asshole and keep him here, just remember you're going to have to answer one question. Why did you let him stay and your kids and their future disappear? Because that's the end of the result. It's not a question of is global warming happening. We know it's happening. And we understand that it's cyclical, asshole. We're not stupid. But the point of it is this. If we're wrong, the worst that happens is we've recycled and we're making cleaner energy. If you're wrong, you take away the life expectancy of my fucking kid, and I'm not fucking putting up with that. Why aren't you, as a parent, fucking done with your parents? Tell them to fuck off. If you're not going to be here for the effects of the vote, then you don't get to fucking vote on it. But we need to start engaging leaders from around the world on creative and more productive ways of saying that. Because at this point, I'm going to fucking kick them off a fucking ledge and be like, every single one of you, here, look, there's an island over by Australia. Australians, you're American now, let's go. And I mean, at this point, we're so bogged down with political correctness that we're not looking at the actual topic. For example, education reform. We really need to get on this, America. You know, at the end of the day, I may sound like a crazy person, but it doesn't change the fact that we have our smart kids with stupid fucking kids. And it's not just the fact that they're stupid, because I'm not the one saying it. You, as the parent, their parent, is telling me they're so stupid that they can't ever advance. Because you're holding my kid back. Well, if you actually did if you were an actual good parent, maybe you would have realized that there are different intelligence across the globe. Strategy, there's so many different intelligence, there's spatial intelligence, that we could isolate and fix and find out which one they have so they could be educated in that and be advanced, wonderful additions to the world, creating a better, safer place for everyone. But instead, because you can't do your job as a mommy or daddy, I'm stuck fucking watching my kid get dumber and dumber and dumber and totally could care less about education. You know how I know? Because now everybody's overeducated. It's not supposed to work that way, guys. Education is something you earn at the advanced level. You're paying to send a kid to college to learn something new. That's something that everybody fucking knows. We need to reevaluate how we engage the world. And if you're offended by the fact that I curse like a sailor, then fucking swallow your next kid, because I'm not going to be nice about it. Part of my ascension was this. I had to forgive myself my shortcomings. And one of my shortcomings is I don't care what you think. I've never cared about what you think. But in order to get to the point where I had ascended, I had to go through hell and back 5 times over. I've died 3 times now, and the third one, I'm pretty sure I was supposed to be the end of my life. But I must have done something right, because here I am. And even though I thought it was purgatory for the past year, and everything... The last moment that I remember of the worst part of the ascension process was when I was on the ground, I had taken a bunch of sleeping pills, and it dawned on me that I was not allowed to die. and that I was stuck here for the rest of my life, and that I was not in control of how that happened. In fact, I was going to be punished for the rest of my existence with having to be here knowing that I wasn't meant to be here. And as I started throwing up and almost suffocating to death from it, and the pain of the body not being able to die, and the brain, you don't know what I've been through. And I don't know what you've been through. But I do know that if we want to engage the leaders of tomorrow, we have to stop and look at the fact that the kids that we have don't want anything to do with our business practice. They want nothing to do with our model. They don't want anything to do with their grandparents whatsoever. They think they're cool and a novelty, but that's about it. They're entertainment. There's no love there. So unless we start doing something, everything's kind of just getting worse, but in a way that's so kind of boring that nobody's paying attention. Like, I don't want anything bad to happen, but dear God, guys, what is it going to take? You're letting society say that because you're a bad parent, we're going to make all the kids in America stupid. What about the kid who's able to answer the question why we got AIDS? Or how about Alzheimer's or the worst, dementia? But instead, we can't get those kids. We can't isolate them because you're so worried about the emotional well-being of a child who does not know that you are looking down upon them unless you do this shit. They are completely oblivious to it. Level 1, level 2, level 3, red, blue, and green does not mean anything to a child except what you put into it and what you make them feel. So enough with the bullshit. Things are changing, and the collective is moving forward. And if I'm the mouthpiece, then so be it. Because I will say that there's an entire generation that you guys are overlooking, and it's mine. It's called Xennials. We were the last generation born before the technology boom. And we're the first generation to operate the technology boom. And in fact, all of your data comes from us as the originals. But we're overlooked because we're part of the baby boomers, which were, and right at the tip of the millennials. We're nothing like either. We are absolutely unique to this planet. And on top of it, some of us are INTJs, and there's 16 personality types. Instead of engaging the 16 personality types, we focus on one or two because they're architects like me, or strategists. Well, that's because it's just a gamble. I don't know why it is right now. Because we're so busy making everybody stupid that we're not looking at all the reasons that we're here. You know, it should be no secret to you what's going to happen to us if we don't shape up. There are 9 colonies that currently exist on the planet, and starting with ants. And in those 9 is a process called bees. And what's happening to the bees, guys, the same thing that's fucking happened to Africa. Africa is the cradle of life. And you're going to tell me that you don't know the global warming is happening? Fuck off. Like, it's very apparent to everything, including the animals, that something's not right. We have shifted dimensions. In fact, I'm pretty sure my belief system tells me that we're about to collide with another dimension. And then I think that's going to be the wake-up for the mass. Because in the ascension process, it speaks to different waves being awakened. And the wave is currently finished now, mine, or is about to finish for those of you barely hanging on. Hang on, it's there. You're going to get clear signs and actual verbiage said to you. You're done. And you're going to get it to the point where you're going to rejoice and your body will literally lighten up. But the last phase of this is so brutal and so harsh because it's subtle. You realize that you're in a dimension that exists with the other dimension. So it's layered on top of each other. They don't know that you are different, and you know who they are. And you can't do anything about it. It's the theory dimension, in my belief. We are in the actual abilities phase of creation of whatever it is that we're going to encounter. But we're in the world that we couldn't do it before. So you're in this layered thing. And so when you go through that, it's so small. And the subtleties are so weird that at first you think you're nuts or you really don't think anything has changed. But then things start to improve slowly as you work through it. But I'm telling you, you will have to confront your greatest fears. And it's something that I can only say to you this. It is worth it in the sense that you will thank the universe for it. And the lightness of your body and the no longer having headaches and all of that is so much better. And the world is so much more beautiful than I ever thought it would be. And I'm so more connected with life and love. And I'm still an asshole. If I don't fucking like you, I don't fucking like you. Probably because I find you on a lower frequency. And so I just don't engage you. But I'm also not negative anymore. Now, if you're going to sit there and say to me that, oh, I'm going to never, that I'm going to be one of those utopian people, Fuck off. It's not going to happen. Again, survival. You still have to be able to get angry, and you still have to be able to defend yourself for wrongs that happen to humanity. You're defending yourself as a collective. So don't just sit there and say, oh, well, I'm going to be a nice person. No, you're not going to be. Because you have children, and you're going to defend the children. If you don't know, ask a mother. Ask a mom if she'll ever walk away from some bitch hitting your child. Oh, fuck you. It's going down. It's just the way that life is. We have to be able to survive. It's a physical yin and yang, right? So you're going to be thankful that it happened to you. And when you get the answers, it's not going to be all knowing, but it's going to be amazing. And I can promise you that. Everything I've ever wanted is happening now. Everything. Everything, money, power, everything. Because I'm not focused on just money. I'm focused on making sure that we, as the leaders of the collective movement, or the leaders of the people going through the ascension first, because there's another wave behind us, and it's big. And we're supposed to lead them. The first were the pioneers before us, and they went through hell and back because they were by themselves and didn't know what the fuck was going on. We were at least able to find the fact that they was on the internet. Now, because of you and me, anybody engaging in this, I hope that you start posting about your ascension or your awakening, because we need them to have a better time. Because I'm never going to tell you that this system is not flawed. Again, energy probably shouldn't be making decisions on non-energy forces. But until now, we're the first beings, probably, in my opinion. My intuition's telling me that we're the first beings ever allowed to consciously make the evolutionary jump from one dimension to the other in a body. And so because of that, that's why things are so freaky. But we're able to then lead the next band, and it's big, guys. It's like, I think it's like a quarter of the population will be awakening at one time. It will be jarring for them. And here's the downer. When you ascend, part of the ascension is you feel them. And you have to learn in this process, and I'm not breaking any secrets here, how to deal with the amount of pain. I spent the last 2 days crying for no fucking reason, and totally annoyed at first, because I understood immediately what it was. I knew it. I instinctually knew that I was at the end. I'm at the last 2 months of graduation. I only have a month left, and the last phase is that I fucking have to feel everything that they're feeling. And I have to be okay with it in order to guide them through it, because otherwise we become useless. That's fucking heavy. But I was grateful, because it made me realize that I was where I was meant to be. And since then, in the past 2 days, everything in my life has changed. The man that I loved does not love me. Told me straight out, and it freed me. It was a day that I mourned that relationship, and it was gone. It was not me. I don't need fear anymore in my life. I don't fear anything. I don't care what people think. But I do respect people, and I'm going to work to help everybody. So that's kind of what I want Altruistic Channel to be. The LLC is basically about my skill set, which is perception and communication strategist. And basically I'm going to go around and I'm going to teach you guys, if you want, especially in corporate America, how to align yourself with the practicality of the collective. Meaning, I'm going to teach you how to look at something old, at something based in something that you thought you knew, in a new light. Because it turns out you can have two opposing views and both be absolutely fucking right. I can show you how. And then I can also show you how the market has changed and how it's an indicative factor in how the world is changing. And so